The crying had been going on for 40 minutes. Every person in Maggie's diner was staring at the massive leather-clad biker desperately bouncing a screaming baby in his tattooed arms. They saw a rough man who didn't belong with an infant. But when a single mother stood up and walked toward him, she saw something completely different, and what she did next left everyone speechless. If this story touches your heart, please leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps us bring more stories of hope and connection to those who need them. Maggie's Diner sat on the corner of 5th and Main in downtown Tulsa, a 24-hour beacon of fluorescent light and bottomless coffee for night owls, insomniacs, and the occasional lost soul looking for somewhere to belong. The chrome stools at the counter had been worn smooth by decades of tired bodies, and the red vinyl booths held the echoes of 1,000 late-night conversations. At 11:15 on a Tuesday night, the diner held a sparse collection of customers, a couple of college students studying in the corner, an elderly man nursing his third cup of decaf, a trucker reading a newspaper, and a young mother with her sleepy 3-year-old daughter. And then there was Marcus "Tank" Rodriguez. At 35 years old, Marcus was built like his nickname suggested. 6'3", 240 pounds of solid muscle covered in tattoos that told the story of his life. His black leather vest bore the patches of the Oklahoma Hells Angels chapter, earned through 15 years of loyalty and brotherhood. His beard was thick and dark, his arms were sleeved in ink, and his presence alone was usually enough to make people cross to the other side of the street. But tonight, none of that mattered. Tonight, Marcus Rodriguez was just a desperate father with a screaming baby and absolutely no idea what to do. Sophia was 6 months old, with her mother's dark eyes and her father's stubborn spirit. She had been crying for 40 minutes straight, not the fussy whimper of a tired baby, but the full-throated, red-faced wail of genuine distress. Marcus had tried everything: bottle, pacifier, rocking, walking, singing, badly. Nothing worked. His daughter screamed as if the world was ending, and Marcus was starting to believe it might be. "Sir, is there anything I can do?" The waitress, a tired woman in her 50s named Doris, approached the booth with obvious reluctance. Her smile was strained, her patience clearly wearing thin. "Maybe some warm milk. Or I could turn up the music." "I've tried warm milk," Marcus said, his voice hoarse from exhaustion. "I've tried everything. She just won't stop." "Well, other customers are starting to complain." Doris glanced toward the college students, who were making exaggerated shows of covering their ears. "Maybe you could take her outside for a bit. The fresh air might help." Marcus wanted to laugh or cry, or both. Did she think he hadn't tried that? Did she think he was sitting here enduring the stares and the judgment because he enjoyed it? He had been outside for 20 minutes before coming in, walking Sophia up and down the parking lot until his arms ached. The crying had only gotten worse. "I'll try," he managed, gathering Sophia against his chest and sliding out of the booth. The trucker at the counter muttered something under his breath that Marcus pretended not to hear. One of the college students said, louder than necessary, "Some people shouldn't have kids if they can't handle them." The words hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. 3 months ago, he would have confronted the kid, gotten in his face, made him regret opening his mouth. But 3 months ago, Marcus had been a different man. 3 months ago, Carmen had still been alive, his wife, his partner, his everything. She had died on a rain-slicked highway, coming home from her sister's house, her car hydroplaning into oncoming traffic. She never even saw the truck that killed her. One moment she was singing along to the radio, probably thinking about Sophia waiting at home, and the next moment she was gone, just like that. The love of his life, erased in an instant, and Marcus was left alone with a 3-month-old baby and absolutely no idea how to be a father without her. He made it halfway to the door before Sophia's crying reached a new pitch, so loud and desperate that he stopped in his tracks. His arms were shaking, his eyes were burning. For the first time in 15 years as a Hells Angel, Marcus "Tank" Rodriguez felt completely, utterly helpless. Jennifer Walsh watched from her booth, her heart breaking with every passing second. She knew that look. She had worn that look herself 3 years ago, when she was alone with a colicky newborn and a husband who had decided fatherhood wasn't for him. She remembered the judgment, the stares, the whispered comments from strangers who had no idea what she was going through. She remembered crying in grocery store parking lots and restaurant bathrooms, feeling like the worst mother in the world because she couldn't make her baby stop crying. This man, this huge, intimidating biker covered in tattoos, was drowning, and everyone around him was too busy judging to throw him a lifeline. "Mommy, the baby is sad," Lily said, tugging at Jennifer's sleeve. Her daughter was 3 years old, with blonde curls and curious blue eyes that missed nothing. "I know, sweetie," Jennifer said softly. "The baby's daddy is trying really hard to help her. Why doesn't someone help him?" Out of the mouths of babes. Jennifer looked at her daughter, then at the struggling father, then at the room full of people doing absolutely nothing but stare and complain. Someone should help him. Why not her? Jennifer made a decision. She took a deep breath, squeezed Lily's hand, and stood up from the booth. "Stay right here, baby girl. Mommy will be right back." She walked across the diner toward Marcus, aware of every eye tracking her movement. The college students exchanged glances. The trucker looked up from his newspaper. Doris, the waitress, started forward as if to intervene, then stopped, uncertain. Marcus saw her coming and his jaw tightened. He braced himself for another complaint, another demand that he leave, another stranger telling him he was failing as a father. His arms wrapped protectively around Sophia, whose cries had become hoarse from exhaustion. "Look, I'm leaving," he said before Jennifer could speak. "Just give me a minute to—" "I'm not here to ask you to leave," Jennifer said gently. She stopped a few feet away, giving him space, keeping her body language non-threatening. "I'm here to help, if you'll let me." Marcus stared at her, not understanding. "What? I'm a pediatric nurse. I've worked with hundreds of babies, and I'm also a mom." She gestured toward Lily, who was watching from the booth with wide eyes. "My daughter was colicky for the first 4 months of her life. I know how hard this is." Marcus's defenses wavered. He searched her face for any sign of judgment or pity and found neither. Just calm, genuine compassion. "I've tried everything," he said, his voice cracking. "I don't know what's wrong with her. I don't know what I'm doing wrong." "You're not doing anything wrong. Sometimes babies just cry, and it doesn't mean you're a bad parent." Jennifer took a small step closer. "Can I try holding her? There's a technique that worked wonders with my daughter. It might help." Every instinct Marcus had screamed against handing his precious daughter to a stranger, but he was exhausted beyond reason, and this woman had kind eyes, and Sophia was still screaming, and he had nothing left to lose. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay." He carefully transferred Sophia into Jennifer's waiting arms. The baby continued to wail, her small face scrunched and red, her tiny fists flailing. Jennifer held her with practiced confidence, immediately adjusting her position. "Hey there, sweet girl," Jennifer murmured, her voice low and soothing. I know. Everything feels really big right now, doesn't it?" She turned Sophia onto her side, supporting her head carefully, and tucked the baby's arms close to her chest. Then she began a gentle, bouncing motion. Not the frantic rocking that exhausted parents often defaulted to, but a slow, rhythmic movement that mimicked the sensation of being in the womb. "Shh," Jennifer breathed, the sound long and continuous, like waves on a shore. "Shh." She began to hum, a simple melody with no particular tune, just a steady vibration that Sophia could feel against her cheek where it pressed to Jennifer's chest. 30 seconds passed. The crying began to lose its desperate edge. 1 minute. Sophia's wails became whimpers. 90 seconds. The whimpers faded to hiccups. 2 minutes. Silence. The diner went absolutely still. Every person who had been staring, judging, complaining, they all watched in stunned disbelief as this stranger performed what seemed like a miracle. Sophia's eyes were closing, her tiny body finally relaxing, her breath evening out into the peaceful rhythm of sleep. Marcus felt tears streaming down his cheeks and didn't care who saw them. "How?" he breathed. "How did you do that?" Jennifer smiled softly, still gently swaying with the sleeping baby. "It's called the hold technique. The position, the motion, the sound. It recreates what she felt in the womb. Safe, contained, peaceful." She looked up at Marcus. "Would you like me to teach you?" Marcus nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. "Come sit down," Jennifer said, walking back toward her booth. "Both of you need to rest, and I think we have a lot to talk about." They sat in the booth together, Jennifer with Sophia still sleeping peacefully in her arms, Marcus across from her looking like a man who had just witnessed a miracle, and little Lily pressed against her mother's side, gazing at the baby with fascination. "She's so tiny," Lily whispered. "She's 6 months old," Marcus said, his voice hoarse. "Her name is Sophia. That's a pretty name. I'm Lily. I'm 3.5. Despite everything, Marcus felt the ghost of a smile touch his lips. "Nice to meet you, Lily." Doris approached tentatively, her earlier impatience replaced by something that looked almost like shame. "Can I get you folks anything? Coffee's on the house." "Coffee would be great," Jennifer said, "and maybe some warm milk for when this little one wakes up." When Doris had retreated, Jennifer carefully transferred Sophia back to Marcus, showing him exactly how to hold her to maintain the calming position. The baby stirred slightly but didn't wake, settling against her father's chest with a contented sigh. "You're a natural," Jennifer said. "You just needed someone to show you." "I'm not a natural," Marcus replied quietly. "My wife was the natural. She knew everything about babies. She read all the books, took all the classes. I was just going to be the dad who played catch and scared off boyfriends." His voice broke. "She wasn't supposed to leave us. I wasn't supposed to do this alone." Jennifer's heart clenched. "What happened? Car accident 3 months ago. Rain, truck, wrong place, wrong time." The words came out flat, rehearsed. The way tragedy becomes when you've had to explain it too many times. "She was coming home from her sister's house. She never made it." "I'm so sorry," Jennifer said, and meant it with every fiber of her being. "Everyone's sorry. But sorry doesn't help at 3 in the morning when Sophia won't stop crying, and I don't know if she's hungry or tired or sick or just missing her mother." Marcus looked down at his sleeping daughter, his tough facade crumbling completely. "I'm terrified I'm going to mess her up, that she's going to grow up and resent me because I couldn't give her what Carmen would have." Jennifer reached across the table and placed her hand over his. The gesture was simple, human, and it broke through walls that Marcus had spent a lifetime building. "You're not going to mess her up," Jennifer said firmly. "You know how I know? Because you're here. You're trying. You brought her to a diner at 11 at night instead of giving up. You didn't leave her with someone else so you could have a break. You held her through 40 minutes of crying when everyone around you was telling you that you were failing." She squeezed his hand. "That's not a man who's going to mess up his daughter. That's a man who loves her more than anything in the world." Marcus couldn't speak. He hadn't cried in front of another person since Carmen's funeral, and he wasn't going to start now. But something loosened in his chest, some weight he hadn't realized he was carrying. "I'm Jennifer, by the way," she said with a small smile. "Jennifer Walsh, pediatric nurse at St. Francis Hospital, single mom to this one here, and apparently diner guardian angel on Tuesday nights." Marcus almost laughed. "Marcus Rodriguez. Everyone calls me Tank. Tank." Jennifer's eyes flickered to his leather vest, taking in the patches for the first time with full awareness. Hell's Angels. 15 years. He waited for the judgment, the withdrawal, the sudden distance that usually came when people realized who he was. But Jennifer just nodded thoughtfully. "My uncle rode with the club in California for 20 years. Best man I ever knew. Died saving a kid from a house fire." She met Marcus's eyes squarely. "I learned a long time ago not to judge people by their leather." In that moment, something shifted between them. Not romance. Neither of them was in a place for that. But something equally rare and valuable: recognition, understanding, the beginning of a friendship built on mutual respect and shared experience. "Jennifer," Marcus said slowly, "can I ask you something?" "Of course. Would you? Would you be willing to teach me more about taking care of her? I've been reading books and watching videos, but nothing works like what you just did." He swallowed his pride, something that didn't come easily. "I need help, and I don't know who else to ask." Jennifer smiled, warm and genuine. "I'd be honored. And actually, there's a group I think you might benefit from. A support group for single parents that meets every Wednesday at the community center. It's helped me more than I can say." "A support group?" Marcus looked skeptical. "I'm not really the support group type. Neither was I. But parenting alone is hard, Marcus. It's okay to need people." She pulled out her phone. "Give me your number. For emergencies, and for when you need someone to talk to at 3 in the morning when the books aren't helping." Marcus hesitated only a moment before reciting his number. It was, he realized, the first time in 3 months that he had reached out to anyone outside his club. Maybe that was the first step toward healing. The following Wednesday evening, Marcus sat in his truck outside the Tulsa Community Center for nearly 20 minutes, having an intense internal argument with himself about whether he could actually go through with this. The building was modest and unassuming, plain brick walls, harsh fluorescent lights visible through the windows, and a hand-painted sign that read, "Single Parents Support Group, Room 104, all welcome." Through the glass, he could see people milling around inside with coffee cups in hand, chatting and laughing like normal human beings who somehow had their complicated lives all figured out. He didn't belong here. He was a Hell's Angel, for God's sake. He had spent 15 years carefully cultivating an intimidating image that kept most people at a safe distance, an image that made grown men cross to the other side of the street to avoid any possible confrontation. The very idea of walking into a room full of complete strangers and openly admitting that he needed help went against every instinct he had developed over 3 decades of learning to handle problems alone. But then Sophia made a small, gurgling sound from her car seat in the back, and Marcus turned to look at his precious daughter. She was wide awake, her dark, innocent eyes watching him with what he could swear was encouragement. Those beautiful eyes reminded him powerfully of Carmen, and Carmen had never once let him take the easy way out of anything difficult or uncomfortable. She would have wanted him to do this. "Okay, little one," he muttered, unbuckling his seatbelt. "We're doing this. For you. For us." He gathered Sophia carefully, strapped her securely into the carrier against his chest, and walked into the community center before he could talk himself out of it. The room fell completely silent the moment he stepped through the doorway. 12 people sat arranged in a circle of metal folding chairs, their conversations dying mid-sentence as they took in the massive leather-clad biker with a baby carrier strapped to his broad chest. Marcus could feel their nervous eyes cataloguing every visible tattoo on his arms, every patch on his vest, every aspect of his appearance that screamed dangerous. A woman instinctively clutched her purse closer. A man shifted his chair slightly away. Then Jennifer stood up from her seat, her face breaking into a warm, genuine smile that cut through the thick tension like sunlight through clouds. "Marcus, you actually came?" She crossed the room and gave him a careful hug. "Everyone, this is Marcus. He's a new dad experiencing the same struggles we've all faced. Marcus, this is everyone." The tension shifted noticeably. If Jennifer trusted this man enough to hug him, maybe he wasn't as frightening as he appeared. Diane, the group facilitator, welcomed him warmly. "We're glad you're here. Please, find a seat anywhere." Marcus lowered himself into an empty chair, wincing as the metal creaked under his weight. Sophia gurgled happily against his chest, reaching up to grab at his beard. The others took turns sharing their weekly experiences. A devoted father named James, whose ex-wife was fighting him viciously for custody. An exhausted mother named Patricia, balancing 2 demanding jobs on barely 3 hours of sleep. A grandmother named Rosa, raising her young grandson after her daughter's tragic overdose. Each story was different, but exhaustion and determination ran through them all. When the circle finally reached Marcus, words spilled out before he could stop them. "My wife Carmen died 3 months ago. Car accident. Sophia was only 3 months old." He gently stroked his daughter's soft hair. "I don't know what I'm doing." Carmen knew everything about babies. She read all the books, took all the classes. "I was supposed to be the dad who played catch and scared off boyfriends. I wasn't supposed to do this alone." The room was quiet, not with judgment, but with understanding. "Last week, I couldn't get Sophia to stop crying for almost an hour. I was in a diner, and everyone stared at me like I was a monster. Then Jennifer helped me. She showed me what to do." He looked around the circle. "I'm not good at asking for help, but my daughter deserves better than a father too proud to admit he's drowning." Diane smiled gently. "That's exactly why we're all here. None of us have it figured out. We just learned we don't have to figure it out alone." After the meeting, several people approached Marcus. James asked about his motorcycle. Rosa pressed her phone number into his hand. "Call any time. I make excellent enchiladas and even better advice." Patricia shyly asked if he knew about fixing cars. As the room emptied, Marcus stood beside Jennifer, watching Lily show Sophia a stuffed rabbit, narrating elaborate adventures. "Thank you," Marcus said quietly, "for making me come. You made that choice for your daughter. That's what good parents do." "Same time next week?" Jennifer smiled. "Same time next week, and every week after that." Over the following weeks, Marcus became a beloved regular at the support group, but he didn't come alone for long. First came Derek Chains Mitchell, a fellow Hell's Angel whose wife had left him alone with twin boys 2 years ago. Derek had been struggling silently, too proud to ask anyone for help. Then came Roberto Priest Sandoval, a widower desperately trying to raise a teenage daughter who refused to talk to him. Then Big Mike, whose girlfriend had abandoned their newborn son at the hospital, leaving Mike to figure out fatherhood with zero preparation. One by one, the Tulsa Hells Angels discovered that the support group wasn't a place of weakness. It was a source of genuine strength. A rare space where they could be fathers first and bikers second, where vulnerability wasn't dangerous, but rather a bridge to human connection. The first night Marcus brought his brothers, the room was thick with tension. 5 massive bikers in leather vests walking into a circle of ordinary single parents looked like the setup for trouble. Women clutched their phones ready to dial 911. Men positioned themselves protectively between the bikers and children. But Diane simply added more chairs and welcomed them warmly. "Everyone here fights the same battle. How we look doesn't change that. Parenthood breaks us all equally and builds us back up the same way, together." Within a month, the dynamic had completely transformed. The bikers brought protective energy that made everyone feel safer. They walked single mothers to their cars after late meetings, watching the dark parking lot with trained eyes. They fixed broken appliances and changed flat tires for free. They intimidated landlords who were threatening eviction. Big Mike, 6'5", 300 pounds, with a face like a clenched fist, became the group's unofficial baby whisperer. Something about his deep rumbling voice and surprisingly gentle hands calmed even the fussiest, most colicky infants almost instantly. And the group gave the bikers something they desperately needed: permission to be vulnerable. In the club, they had to be tough, unbreakable, fearless. But in room 104, they could admit parenting was incredibly hard, that they missed their partners terribly, that they sometimes locked themselves in bathrooms and cried while their children watched cartoons. Jennifer watched it unfold with wonder. One simple act of kindness in a diner had rippled outward in ways she never could have imagined, touching lives she would never know about. She and Marcus developed a deep, genuine friendship over those weeks. They texted daily, sharing parenting victories and disasters, exchanging advice at 2 a.m. when neither could sleep. He became her first panicked call when Lily spiked a fever. She became his lifeline during Sophia's brutal, teething nightmare. It wasn't romance, neither was ready, but it was partnership, trust, family, without conditions. 3 months after Maggie's Diner, Marcus called with excitement in his voice. "I have a big idea. The club does a charity ride every year, usually for veterans or homeless shelters. This year, I want to raise money for single parents, childcare assistance, emergency funds when the car breaks down, stuff that makes the difference between surviving and drowning." Jennifer felt tears forming. "Marcus, that's incredible. There's more. I want to partner with the support group, bikers and parents together. Show the world that family isn't about who you are or where you come from. It's about showing up for each other when it matters. I'm completely in. Whatever you need." The planning consumed 3 months. Marcus coordinated with the club while Jennifer organized the support group. They secured permits, arranged sponsors, reached out to media. Word spread about the unusual partnership, Hell's Angels and single parents, joining forces for struggling families. The charity event dawned bright and clear, perfect Oklahoma weather for a motorcycle ride. The starting point was Maggie's Diner parking lot, a deliberate symbolic choice that made both Marcus and Jennifer smile every time they thought about it. Over 200 gleaming motorcycles filled the spacious lot, chrome catching the morning sun. But mixed among the bikes were minivans and strollers, parents with excited children of every age. The support group wore matching T-shirts Jennifer had designed. "Family has no dress code." News cameras captured the extraordinary scene, leather-clad bikers helping nervous mothers strap giggling children into sidecars for short rides. Big Mike was surrounded by toddlers who thought his enormous beard was hilarious, pulling at it while he pretended to be a friendly giant under attack. Diane talked animatedly with the chapter president about next year's event. At the center stood Marcus and Jennifer, daughters in their arms, watching the impossible become reality. "Look at this," Jennifer breathed, turning slowly. "I never imagined anything like this." "Neither did I," Marcus admitted. 6 months ago I was drowning, crying alone in my truck while Sophia screamed, thinking I was going to lose everything. Then you walked across a diner and asked to hold my baby." He shook his head in wonder. "One moment. One simple choice. Everything changed. You just looked like you needed help. Everyone else was too busy judging. You saw a father, not a biker, a person, not a stereotype." Marcus turned to face her fully. "You changed my life, Jennifer. You changed many lives. The guys in my club are better fathers because of what you started. Their kids will grow up with dads who know how to show up, who aren't afraid to ask for help." Jennifer blinked back tears. "You did all the hard work, which is why the club voted unanimously on something last night." Marcus reached into his vest and pulled out a small leather patch. "This is for you." Jennifer took it with trembling hands. Simple words embroidered on leather: "Honorary Mother, Tulsa Chapter." "It means your family," Marcus explained, voice thick with emotion. "Not just to me, to every brother in the club. You're protected, respected, and loved. Whatever you need, whenever you need it, 200 brothers will come running. That's not words. That's a sacred promise." Jennifer clutched the patch to her chest, tears streaming freely. 3 years ago, her husband had left her alone with a newborn, saying she wasn't worth staying for. She had rebuilt her shattered life through sheer determination, never expecting anyone to stand beside her again. Now she had an entire family of unlikely guardian angels in leather. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Say you'll keep showing up. That's all family ever asks." Lily tugged at Jennifer's shirt. "Mommy, why are you crying?" Jennifer laughed through tears, kneeling down. "I'm happy, baby girl, so incredibly happy. Can Sophia be my sister now? I really want a sister." Jennifer looked at Marcus, who was grinning despite the obvious shine in his own eyes. "Sisters? Sisters," Marcus agreed firmly. "And family, all of us, now and forever." The charity ride raised over $50,000, enough for emergency childcare assistance across Tulsa for an entire year. Local businesses enthusiastically matched donations. News coverage inspired similar partnerships nationwide, but the real victory couldn't be measured in dollars. It was measured in friendships formed between people who never would have met otherwise, in barriers broken between communities that viewed each other with suspicion, in children growing up, knowing family could be found in the most unexpected places. As motorcycles roared out on the charity ride, 200 engines thundering in harmony, Jennifer stood holding Lily's hand, watching Marcus lead the procession with Sophia strapped safely to his chest. "Mommy," Lily said, waving enthusiastically, "are the motorcycle men our family now? For real?" Jennifer thought about that night in Maggie's diner, a crying baby, a desperate father, the choice to help instead of judge. "Yes, baby," she said softly. "They're our family now, for real and forever." The unthinkable thing Jennifer did wasn't holding a stranger's baby. It was simpler and infinitely more powerful. She chose compassion over judgment, connection over fear, love over indifference. That single choice built a family out of strangers, a community out of outcasts, and a future out of broken pieces no one thought could ever fit together. The best miracles start with small acts of kindness in ordinary places. Like a diner at 11 at night, where a tired mother decided helping was more important than judging, and everything changed, for everyone, forever. That is the true and beautiful power of simple, beautiful human kindness.